Welcome to Funnance, where your money becomes fun. I hold a master's degree in finance and did nothing with it professionally, but I used the concepts I learned to build wealth and economic freedom. I started this channel to help you do the same. Each video is a short explanation of a topic and how you can apply its concepts to your wallet, followed by a case study from my investing experience. I'm not selling you anything, but giving you knowledge. Okay, welcome to a very important episode of Funnance, and this is another one where it's a little tough to make it fun, but it's something that you have to wrap your head around, and this is something that I think it takes a while. It took a while for me, and that's the crux of everything that is finance. It's this equation and the concept of the time value of money. I would say probably 95%, 98% of the public doesn't think about or understand the time value of money. Maybe I'm wrong. I certainly didn't as much. You know, you think about rates and you think about time. But one way that it was explained to me that it was able to stick in my head is that maybe it's an exaggeration, but you have your dollar. Well, this is $1. Okay, people look at this as $1. You should look at it like it's 50% is the quantity or the number. The other 50% is its time value of money, and that's the rate on it. Again, it's a tough concept to understand, but time is, I was going to say everything. I mean, it is everything, but time is our world. And in finance, time is 50%. Just always think about it, because you always have your rate, you always have your I. We'll go into doing some of these equations. It looks scary, algebra, but it's really not. It's very simple. And this is what really dictates. I mean, this is where they put it on the back of the calculator. This is what dictates all of finance. So all of your savings, all of your loans, inflation, currencies. One thing that I always like to point out is people always wonder why Venmo takes a few days to get your money. My brother actually just sent me some money, and it says 2 to 3 days until it's in your bank account. Well, they're making money off that because literally there's the overnight rate, there's LIBOR. Banks are making money every day because of rates, and there's trading rate. I mean, it's crazy. So the point of this episode is to really, like I said, we'll do some calculations with this, and we'll understand it. But actually, let's go into it right now. But again, this is just going to be on the concept. This actually is an episode maybe you should even watch a couple of times just to think about it. Because whenever you're thinking about money, again, everyone thinks about the numbers. You should also just think about the time component, and that is rates and whatnot, the expiration. So let's talk about the equation. Again, time value of money is all of finance, because PV is present value, FV is future value. This dollar is $1 right now. I should be doing something with it. I should be having fun with it. I should either be spending it and having fun or putting it to work. And that's what this whole thesis is on. It's putting it to work, having fun with it. I like to always think of putting it to work and then taking that money and spending it. But anyway, we'll get to that. That's the fun part. I is interest. N is time. So I is the rate. So let's say, let's keep it simple again. We have $1. We put it into a bank, and we have 5% on that bank, on that savings rate, and that's per year. So after a year, you should have $1 and a nickel. Now, the thing that is, again, I'm just trying to help you get your head around it. A lot of times people get disturbed by this fact, especially when we're in periods of really high inflation, and probably you've seen examples like this in the last couple of years, where if you have a savings rate of, what did we say, 5%, and inflation is 7%, well, this dollar in the bank just lost that purchasing power. Sure, it's still a dollar, but the time value brought that purchasing power down. Because if inflation was 7%, yours was 5%, you're losing 2%. Same thing with a raise. You get a raise for 5% and inflation was 7%, you're technically making less money. It sucks. So that's another part of the reason why, I think so many people have financial difficulty, and we'll talk about all different things in budgeting and whatnot, but we need to beat that inflation rate, and that's what we'll concentrate on doing. Now, everything is the rate. Rates are everywhere. It's the it's the foundation of finance. Your mortgage has a rate, your savings rate, your investments, your loans, your credit card, everything has a rate, and it's all different. So how is a rate determined? Really, to keep things simple, the rate is determined by the Federal Reserve. Let's just talk about America. Let's just talk about our situation. You can make an argument that the Fed almost dictates the rate for the whole world, where people like Japan and England follow in its footsteps. But we'll talk about macroeconomics of the Fed's mandate of keeping inflation around 2% and keeping employment up. And we'll talk about the Federal Reserve. I mean, geez, there's a whole bunch to talk about with that. But to understand, again, how does it affect you? And when we start looking at investments and different rates, and even as simple as something like a savings rate at a bank, we won't talk about how the Fed comes up with its rate, but let's say it says, okay, our rate is 5%. So that is the rate that banks borrow from it, and then you get to borrow from the banks. A good example is mortgages. So let's say the bank or the Fed its rate is 5%. Well, a bank will then borrow. Let's keep it really simple. Let's say that you're buying a house for $100,000, and the bank is saying, "Hey, we want to give this guy, we want to loan him $100,000. He's a handsome gentleman." So they borrow from the Fed that 5%, and then they tack on points, basis points, or 100 basis points is 1%. So it's rate. So then they charge, let's say, 8% on that mortgage. So they're making money off of that, and they're paying back the Fed. You have your mortgage, you have your house, everyone's happy. That's how essentially rates are in that regard originated. Now, when you're talking about credit cards or let's just say personal loans or anything like that, when one guy, let's call him Tony, he gets 6%, and Sally over here gets 10%, and you go, why? Why would the rates be different? And you see that when you're buying a car or whatever, and you have your credit score. Again, we'll talk about that stuff later. But the rate is essentially reflective of how certain or how comfortable the loaner is that they'll get their money back. So the bigger the risk, the bigger the rate. It sounds a little counterintuitive because you would think like, oh, if the person would have a problem paying it back, why would you give them a higher rate? But that's the rules of finance. You want to be compensated. One quick aside, which again, I'm telling things that I didn't know when I went into finance school, is that a lot of people don't pay back their debts. It's amazing how much write-offs, like big companies, especially companies that are in a rate-heavy environment, like a cell phone company, cable company, that they write off it's a crazy amount. I don't want to say a number and be roasted, but a lot of people just don't pay. Think about how many people get their car impounded. It's because then they stopped paying. So that's a loose explanation of the time value of money and how it is the backbone, the foundation of all that is finance. But one thing that is something that I really, you never really hear out spoken outright, especially on the CNBCs and the Wall Street Journals and the like. But everyone kind of knows it, and I'm gonna end this episode because I don't want to bombard you with too much information at once. I want to help and I want to be your coach, your guide through this journey of getting economically stable and free, and that you can do things where you don't have to worry. But I'm kind of beating around the bush. Let me get to the point. The point is that people who have money have the power. Duh, yeah. But that's what finance is that there's always someone who has money and there's always someone who needs money. So the person who needs money goes to a person that has money and says, "Hey, can I borrow money?" If you think about it, the person who has the money, they say, "Well, you got to give me something because you might not pay me back." That is essentially finance. So the person who needs the money says, "Yeah, all right, well, listen, if you give me $1, I'll give you $1.50 back in 5 years." And so that's where the person with the money has to decide if it's worth it or not. That's where the banks, that's where mortgages, that's everything broken down really, really simply. And the person who's given the money, they don't have to do it. They can say, "All right, no, I want this percentage. I want whatever." So that's the crux behind all of finance. And the thing that, I'll just again try to make this as personal as possible is that, here I am. I'm not the finance bro. I don't have the suit on, and I'm trying to teach my thesis that you can have fun with this stuff. You can beat inflation. You can make money from your money and have fun with it. But and the and I don't know if you've seen episodes before, but I grew up poor. It's horrible when you don't have money. I don't want to be too graphic, but there was even a medical procedure. Let's just say that the first thing that they send you, because insurance really didn't cover it. This wasn't cosmetic or anything like that. Was about financing and the rates on the financing for this medical thing. And it was one of those times where I'm glad that I found fun in this and I found interest in this stuff and was able to do this because I say to myself all the time, I don't need a mansion. I don't need this. I don't need that. But there's times when, and you can be rolling your eyes and shaking your head saying like, of course, dummy, this is everything. But there's times, there really are times where I want to make sure that you're okay, where you don't have to be, a lot of times people say predatory rate, there's predators out there. So I wasn't thinking that I was going to bring this up on this episode, but it is true. And again, this isn't a fun part of it. Not at all. But, let's get to there where you can, like I always say, breathe and get that bad news or get that letter with the financing package as the first thing you open up and say, well, I don't need that. I'm okay. I don't need to. Because think about it. If there's something that you want to buy, this is another way of looking at things too, with the time value of money. If you want to, that's what people with credit cards really don't understand. It's that they buy a new laptop. I'm just going to show. And it's $1,000, but they're putting on their credit card at 20%. That laptop is a lot more than $1,000 at the time that they finish off paying it. If they take a year or two to pay it, don't do that. Let's do it the other way. Let's do it where we're putting $1,000 in, and the thousand that we take out at the end of whatever our investment is way more than that $1,000. I hope that makes sense. We're going to be revisiting the time value money constantly. Again, I like to think of it as 50% because that makes it like, whoa, that's a big piece of it. You have your piggy bank when you're a kid, you put in $20, the next year you have $20. We're not in that world anymore. We're big boys and big girls and big everything, whatever you are. And let's have fun with this. So again, I know this wasn't that much of a fun one. It was a little bit of cold water on your head. Yeah, the powers that be rule the world, but we have some arrows in our quiver that we're going to use to beat them, and I'm with you every step of the way. So let's do this. Okay, this case study of you did Whaaa is in Nvidia, and it's definitely a hot topic right now. It's the definition almost of the AI boom that's happening right now. But my purchase goes back to 2018, and I thought I was late. So the lesson here is that it's never too late. And one thing that I want to differentiate is that, but it's not FOMO. It's not fear of missing out. So let me explain. So Nvidia, I've been a fan of the company. I built a PC in the early 2000s. Obviously, I was into video editing and gaming, and I always needed a fast computer. So I was a fan of the company. I was a fan of the stock. I would watch it, and it was 2016, and even Jim Cramer named his dog Nvidia, and it was a tremendous gain even then. And I was sad that I didn't pick it up because I was a fan. Everything was right, and for whatever reason, I kind of thought that the train had left the station. So my story is, and again, going back to the lesson, I don't want this just to be a bragging session, is that not so at all. It was 2016, and my wife and I and family were in Munich at Oktoberfest. And we were in the Munich hotel. We just came back from Oktoberfesting. And I had CNBC on and Jim Cramer on, and he was talking about it. And at that time, the big thing was self-driving cars, SDV, self-driving vehicles. And they thought, the investment community thought that Nvidia was primed to be the leader in this because the GPUs would be needed to see the cars and judge everything and drive. Here we are, 2024, and still nothing. But anyway, that was the big thing, and Nvidia was just as hot of a company then as it was now, where you would go on hedge fund websites and family fund sites, and they would put the logo up there saying like, "This is our big idea." So anyway, my wife, rolls her eyes whenever I talk finance or stocks, but I was, feeling the effects, and so was she of our day of drinking, and I was watching Jim Cramer talk about it and whatever it was, and I was lamenting to her that I missed my shot, my opportunity. And my wife said something that I always remember, and she said, "Well, why don't you just buy it?" And I said, "Well, no, I think I missed my chance." She said, "Is it going to go up?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." I was such a believer. And she said, then buy it. And it was that simple, that simple of a breakdown, and that sometimes, you should look at investing in that way. Do you think it's going to go up? Yeah. So get in now. Don't sulk that you missed out. Getting a seat on that roller coaster, and hopefully it's going up before it goes down, is better than watching the roller coaster from the street. In Oktoberfest, there was roller coasters, but even then, I didn't uh, open up my phone or laptop and place an order or anything like that. I still didn't in 2016, and it took a couple of years. It was only until 2018, and again, I was a fan of the company. I was watching. I'm pretty sure I was watching one of the. I would watch the presentations that the CEO Jensen Huang would give, and there was one where he was in a kitchen. I remember watching that at work. Playing in the background, and he was talking about the marvels of shading or lighting with some 3D object, and I think I was in a shop somewhere, and I saw a little bit of a dip, and then I bought then, and we'll look at the chart now. I mean, I guess this is when where you do show your gains or whatever, but this was something that again, this was commission time. I bought, I think, $5,000 worth of shares. And now it's close to $100,000 worth of shares. Amazing. Actually, I think I bought during COVID as well, so it wasn't that much of a gain, but I mean, whatever. Now that 5,000, 75,000, whatever it is. But like I said, one of the best investment decisions I did, and I almost didn't do it just because I felt like I missed out. So just wrapping it up again, how is it different than fear of missing out? Well, fear of missing out, it's like I think of fear of missing out where Rivian, the electric car company, skyrocketed on its IPO over $100, and everyone kept on saying, "Oh, this is fear of missing out." The Tesla thing, the big gain that Tesla had, that people missed out on that, and they didn't want to miss out on it again, so they bought into Rivian without even knowing anything about it or anything like that, just that it was a hot EV company. So that's not this. This is something that, like I said, I've been following the company for almost 2 decades at that point, and I was a fan. I was watching it. I did have that feeling of regret, but my wife's simple advice of, "Hey, do you think it's still going to go up? Then get in." And that's the lesson I want to teach here. There's a lot of times where, I don't recommend buying at the highs, very, very high, but we'll talk about other instances where, close to the highs, and it's okay to get in at that point. Don't always have to be looking for the dips. So I know the Wall Street bets, and there's probably people on YouTube with making millions of dollars off in Nvidia with options and big bucks. But this is how I did it. This is how I think it will help you find that next Nvidia. Hey, maybe it is Nvidia still. I mean, it's at highs right now. But people are saying it's going to double. So, I'm not going to give investment advice or anything like that, but, maybe I'll place an order today. I don't know. So I certainly have fun when I look at that gain. I want you to as well. So let's maybe in future episodes, we'll start getting into different stocks and ones that I do think can get you there. All right. Have fun. Bye. All right, that's the episode. Please subscribe, like, and comment any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in a future episode. Log on to Funnance.com to learn more, and let's have fun with finance.